Black Mirror is a popular and addicting Netflix original series that examines science fiction topics like consciousness and surveillance. As Black Mirror is among the only shows I can bring myself to watch, it must have done something right. So today, I present a tier list for all 28 episodes, including Bandersnatch and Season 6. I'm not too embarrassed about the watermark. I think you should check out that site if you want to have a field day with putting tier lists together. Certainly made this video much simpler, allowing me to focus on my presentation. Also, hardcore spoilers. There's just no way for me to talk about every single episode without spoiling something. Evaluating each episode chronologically starts us off with Season 1, Episode 1, the National Anthem. B tier. Definitely not my favorite episode, but something about it lured me into watching the rest of the series. Wasn't too crazy, no flashing lights or laser guns or anything, at least going for a cerebral angle, even if that may have been too ambitious. Allusions to sexting and blackmail felt very real, especially since the Prime Minister did fuck a pig when it was all said and done. And the fact that he didn't really have to all along, damn, it had an effect on me and probably other viewers. Next, 15 Million Merits, A tier. I like this one. It stars Daniel Kaluuya from Black Panther, Get Out, Nope, and more. Love that guy. The hottest girls in the nastiest situations. It's funny. For maybe the first 2 times that happens, one of the most fun parts of this episode is watching Daniel Kaluuya struggle to talk to the woman he likes because he's so used to being in front of screens. And then on top of that, these stupid porn commercials pop up and announce that he's a regular user to everyone in the general vicinity. The world these young people are living in feels a little silly, but not completely beyond belief, because it seems like there's a world outside of the crazy 1984 district they're living in. If not, it doesn't really matter to me. The episode gets its points across, I think. The shows that the characters watch when they're on the treadmill made me feel things. I thought that the fact that there's a show where you just laugh at fat people is like really sad, actually. Could you imagine? Wouldn't make me feel better. Anyway, definitely the cream of Black Mirror. Good episode. Season 1, Episode 3, The Entire History of You. S tier. With the assistance of a few drinks, this episode reduced me to tears the first time I saw it. Where do I start? The device around which the episode happens is believable because it seems so feasible and practical. The main character analyzes his interview and obsesses over it. Of course, he also catches his wife cheating by looking at others' implants. Clearly, no Black Mirror episode is complete without a cheating and or dead wife. The arguments characters have with each other are believably intense and high stakes. Good acting from people of whom I'd never heard. Now, why would a Black Mirror episode make me cry? Well, because at the end of the episode, the main character is in such pain from memories of the woman who left him that he physically cuts the memory implant from his head. Damn, you know? Even a Balenciaga model with $1 bajillion can probably relate to the experience of wanting nothing more than to wipe away positive memories because it's just too painful to keep them around. Anyone who thinks it's a straight up bad episode is lying. I think this is peak Black Mirror. S tier is only gonna have 3 episodes. Next is Season 2, Episode 1. Be Right Back. Not my favorite. This is the one where a widow gets a robot that replicates her dead husband if she puts it in the bathtub. Of course, it'd be hard to enjoy this episode if everything is hunky-dory with the woman's relationship with the robot. Basically, he's not human enough to make her comfortable. He doesn't need to breathe, so he doesn't, and then he's like, I can breathe if you want me to, and obviously that doesn't work either. He doesn't need to eat, doesn't feel pain. The woman places his hand on her tit before they have sex, and she's like, your hand's on my tit, and he just sits there like he's me and has no idea what he's supposed to do. And then he basically fucks her too hard, and she's like, please don't fuck me that hard, and he's like, seriously. And of course, the writers don't actually know anything about robots, so if I remember correctly, the robot uses subroutines to fuck the woman as hard as possible, highly efficient. Since the robot doesn't solve any of her problems, and she has to grieve like an adult, the widow resolves to leave him in the attic and have their child visit him on the child's birthday. I'd let a woman put me in the attic and use me when she needs me. I'm trying to work through that with my therapist. Still Black Mirror, not great. C tier. Season 2, Episode 2, White Bear. D tier. Boo. Gonna catch these hands. Main problem? I saw the mindfuck ending from light years away. I figured everyone was in on whatever experience this woman was having, one way or the other. Because these episodes are so long, it's almost doubly disappointing to make it all the way to the cop-out ending, while the sci-fi element around which the episode develops is impractical and kinda too evil. That is, the Justice Park for particularly gruesome criminals. It does seem feasible. There's not much more to this episode than the cast of characters that creates the fake post-apocalyptic world and the gimmick of the criminal living in perpetual agony because it's like Groundhog Day. Season 2, Episode 3, The Waldo Moment. B tier, not life-changing, kinda long, but pretty good. I mean, in this day and age, fucking anything can run for office, so why not a cartoon character played by a comedian? I think it might have been more believable if it were like an overconfident actor or a comedian himself, as has happened in the past, but Waldo was ultimately representative of nothing more than the man himself, so I guess that works. He was intimate with that candidate at the beginning of the episode. I feel like sex weasels its way into so many shows. Black Mirror is the tip of the iceberg, but the sex is beside the point. That they're friends/allies. According to my therapist, if a woman takes off all her clothes and gets into bed with you, she probably likes you. And the ending, I just watched as a refresher. The good guys lose, and the conservative guy Waldo goes after wins, and Waldo ends up on the street. The end. Episode 4, White Christmas, with Jon Hamm. B tier. For an episode that includes like 3 distinct stories in a single episode, it does a good job of not getting too confusing. A major reason for that is they're self-contained and in order. A reminder, in the first segment of the story, Jon Hamm is some red pill guru who's using an earpiece to talk a dorky guy through a romantic endeavor. This story doesn't really go anywhere since it kills off the dorky guy, but it establishes Jon Hamm's sleazy but practical character. The second story addresses his personality more minutely. The whole point is to soften the other guy into confessing to a murder. That final story, with the guy confessing to murder, was most compelling. The fact that the kid wasn't his wasn't something I'd completely predicted, and I admired the sci-fi concept of blocking someone in real life. Again, I think the reason it worked is because it seemed feasible and practical, that the offspring are protected too, that the block wears off when the blocker dies. The phenomenon made sense. When the end reveals that Jon Hamm used his skills to smooth talk the other guy into admitting a crime, it's revealed that Jon Hamm's character has also committed a crime. And even though he doesn't have to go to jail, he's permanently blocked by everybody, making him super fucked, even in comparison to other horny characters throughout the series. This brings us to Season 3, Episode 1, Nosedive. Easily, this is an S-tier episode, and perhaps the best in the entire series. The main character, Lacey, is played by Bryce Dallas Howard, who was recently featured in an episode of Architectural Digest. Oh my god. If you don't remember, or don't care, Lacey needs to get her social media profile to 4.5 stars to qualify for a discount on her rent so that she can move to a nicer place. A consultant, believable and practical, tells her that the only way for her to see profile growth very quickly is to get a lot of high 4s to like her profile and posts. So she gets invited to a high-profile wedding and thinks she's set. Of course, if she made it to the wedding and got the 4.5 and never experienced any growth, that'd be a pretty boring episode. So, what do the writers do? As soon as Lacey's anxiety causes lapses in decorum, she watches her beloved 4.2 plummet to a high 2. She can't get on a plane, she can't rent a dependable car, she almost misses the wedding. And when she finally arrives, she effectively crashes the wedding since her invitation was rescinded. You may remember she meets the old woman who's been around the block, who used to be a 4.6 but now she's a 1.2 or something. And I think that's where the excuse for all that introspective work and change in Lacey comes from. Lacey shows up to the wedding drunk out of her mind, covered in mud and half naked like some kind of goddamn YouTuber. No wonder she got arrested. In The Slammer, she tells a guy in the opposite cell to go fuck himself, and he tells her to go fuck herself, and it's super cathartic for both of them, and that's the end of the episode. What a great film. Season 3, Episode 2, Playtest. C tier. Still technically Black Mirror, but major cop-out ending. Stuff that leads to the cop-out ending is pretty good. Getting to know the main character makes his ultimate fate scarier and more impactful. The guy goes around and travels because he's worried about memory loss, and he wants to capitalize on making as many memories as possible before his memory deteriorates as it did in his dad. That makes perfect sense. And then he deliberately braves the situation that invariably fucks with his head. It's a testament to his open-mindedness and internal strength. As a side note, the woman he hooks up with doesn't feel too shoved in. The writers handled it in a way that made that short relationship feel believable and real, especially with regard to the way she suggests he do the playtest. So the playtester meets the game director, who sort of demonstrates the edginess of Kojima as well as the bubbly veneer of Shigeru Miyamoto. The AR experience really gets to him, and it seems like it has to end a few times for him to be sure that the experience is indeed over. This second guessing makes the cop-out ending a little less frustrating. Yes, it's a cop-out, but they tried to make it go down easier by leaving you guessing. If you don't recall the end of the episode, there was dangerous interference between the cell phone the playtester turned back on after the proctor had turned it off. Basically, the entire AR experience happened over the course of a single second, during which the playtester's mind sort of just exploded. The end. Dumb. C tier. Season 3, Episode 3, Shut Up and Dance. C tier. Okay, still technically Black Mirror. This is the pedophile episode, or if you're in England, the pedophile episode. Right, so the people who wank it to kiddos have to do a bunch of arbitrary tasks to keep some unknown force from telling everybody they wank it to kids. Simple enough, right? Well, that's kind of the problem. They get caught, they're freaked out, they stay freaked out as they do progressively crazier things to get out of the mess they're in. Not much more to the episode than that. I mean, it's pretty choice that those two guys rob a fucking bank. Anyway, the ending wasn't something I totally foresaw. I thought that the unknown force may have let these characters off the hook if they played ball. But I guess the punishment makes sense. The unknown force seems to have forced the punishment of human trafficking upon those who create the demand for such trafficking. Like, you do everything to keep the pimp happy and he beats you anyway. That's the vibe I got from it. Not my favorite. If nothing else, be careful what you download. Someone might catch you with your dick in your hand. For real. The lid of my desktop camera actually has a heart on it, as if to say, if you're about to get it on, close the camera. Oh, while we're on the subject, very important strength of the email that the kid got is that the unknown force included the video of him wanking. Many scammers will tell you that they caught you jacking off with no evidence. Ignore those dumbasses, they're harmless. Season 3, Episode 4, San Junipero. A tier. I like this one. So many shows ignore the phenomenon that is old people. Certainly old people are never main characters, even if someone bothers to include them. For this episode to focus on them exclusively is so refreshing. As with all powerful Black Mirror episodes, the ostensible MMO within which the nostalgia therapy occurs seems feasible and practical, maybe even with current technology in some form. I like how Yorkie's life as a complete quadriplegic informed her reserved and conservative personality. That's something I could see happening in real life. Her yearning for love as a severely disabled woman, as well as her ignorance of what relationships are like, felt very real to me. Kelly resents Yorkie's belief that Kelly's relationships made life significantly easier. Also pretty believable. The all-around purpose of San Junipero is to make old people feel as young as many do in their heads. This adds a further element of fun by ridiculing past decades, from the shoulder dancing of the 70s to the generic sexualized outfits from 2001. A good episode of a television show should be fun to watch, and San Junipero succeeds on that front. Season 3, Episode 5, Men Against Fire, D tier. This is the Nazi episode. So the army guys have implants that make them see Ashkenazi Balkan people as monsters called roaches. Super easy to see where everything's going from the get-go. The mass implants do strike me as an interesting concept. Not only do these implants make for logistical and strategic enhancements, but they also attempt to optimize the inner mental health of whatever soldier by making sure the soldiers have wet dreams every night about the partners they left at home. Kind of a weird way to optimize mental health, but it's hard to believe such nightly experiences would make them feel worse. The premise of the episode is that the Jews have found a way to disrupt the mass implants through reverse engineering because we're really fucking smart. When he figures out what happens, the main character gets upset and says he doesn't want to kill innocent people anymore, which is fair. The evil psychiatrist tells him that, well, roaches carry disease in their genetics and diseases are bad, so we need to keep killing innocent people. And if the main character doesn't want to keep killing innocent people, then not only will he be imprisoned, but he'll be forced to watch himself kill innocent people in first-person view without the mass system telling him those innocent people are monsters. Even if he closes his eyes. Super normal. Sure, the episode is kinda shocking and fucked up, but what else is it? There are better Black Mirrors out there. Season 3, Episode 6, Hated in the Nation. A tier. Here we have a literal noir episode about bees in the future that isn't full of misogynistic bullshit, because guess what? The detective is a woman. her sidekick is a woman. Half the people in the episode are women. That this episode made the proud owner of a Nintendo Switch unreasonably angry is almost guaranteed. I like how the detective is knowledgeable and people-savvy, while the young sidekick is tech-savvy. It illustrates the disconnect between millennials and boomers in a fun way. It's a rare example of a young person and an old person teaming up to solve a problem, instead of the young intern screwing everything up and the older person making up for the younger person's mistakes. The robot bees are a cool concept. The episode doesn't really go into why the bees are important beside ecosystems will collapse without now extinct bees. I think that's true, but there's not much of a discussion outside that basic fact. The big mystery in the episode is to figure out why the bees are burrowing inside brains to kill people. The whole episode revolves around slowly uncovering the mystery by tracking the next victim. At around 90 minutes, it's quite a finale, within which the stakes keep getting higher and higher, but it's well paced enough to go by quickly. Definitely among the better episodes. Now we've made it to season 4. So episode 1, USS Callister, B tier. I call this one the Star Trek episode not only due to its obvious references, but because, it's about as generic a Black Mirror episode as one can fathom. This episode focuses on a NASA engineer and CTO of a game company called Callister. The CTO is an anxious pushover who struggles to stand up for himself, allowing his jealousy of the CEO to fester in silence. The NASA engineer leaves a sample of her DNA in the office, and the CTO uses that sample to clone her into his own modded copy of a game in development. The game is supposed to be a space-age MMO, but the CTO mods his copy to emulate the world of the stand-in for Star Trek, the Callister. The important part of the modded copy is that it's a world where clones of work colleagues must submit to the CTO's avatar. This world is a space where the otherwise timid CTO can exercise more power, authority, and charisma over his subject. So right off the bat, we hate this guy a lot. And come to think of it, his profoundly pathetic weaknesses as an antagonist make our protagonist's virtues shine brighter. Though the other clones are burned out, the clone of the new engineer that the CTO is too scared to ask out on a fucking date resolves to blackmail herself into destroying the DNA samples while destroying herself and the other clones. As burnt out as the other clones feel, they're invigorated by her passion, and they work together to escape their digital hellscape. Definitely not my favorite, but I hope my account paints a picture of how strong it is. Season 4 Episode 2, Archangel, A tier. Directed by world-class lesbian Jodie Foster. This is a good goddamn episode about some crazy shit that could happen today. I mean, that's sort of in the spirit of the entire show, but yeah, all the more reason to call it peak Black Mirror. A new mother gives birth via C-section to an unresponsive baby that needs a minute or two to start screaming like a normal baby. A contrived scene, it certainly sets the stage for a story about a helicopter mom. She also loses the tyke in a park at one point, which is a scary but familiar experience for all parents, including my mom when she lost me at the beach. I had scared the shit out of everyone simply by walking all the way down to the other end of the beach. A lot of us microchip our furry small friends, but this episode presents the Archangel technology. After the incident at the park, doctors chip the baby girl, and the mom receives a tablet with which to monitor the chip's findings. Mom can see through her daughter's eyes, censor what the daughter sees in real time, and even read vitals, such as temperature or heart rate. Of course, nothing goes too far south until the daughter reaches her teen years. Mom comes across graphic evidence of an otherwise ordinary sexual encounter the daughter has with a classmate, and she does her utmost to separate the couple in her anger. The boyfriend also sells drugs. I guess that's kind of a problem. More than anything else, this episode is a cautionary case study in why overstepping boundaries and healthy rebellion inherent to growth don't mix well. Any good parent knows that helicopter parents are bad parents, but I digress. Season 4, Episode 3, Crocodile, D tier. What a dumbass episode. This is the episode where Ellen DeGeneres has to keep killing people to end a trail of witnesses. She ends up having to kill an insurance agent, and then her husband, and then her baby, because there's a special vision machine that people use to see what others see. Even though the police can't interrogate a dead baby, they can interrogate what the guinea pig saw. So the woman thought she killed everybody she had to kill, but she forgot the guinea pig. So she has to pay the price for killing a baby and like 11 other people, I lost track, because I wasn't paying attention. Graphic, gory, shocking, nothing else. Don't watch it. Season 4, Episode 4, Hang the DJ. A tier. This is a cool take on what the future of dating apps might look like. It's a little silly, but ultimately I buy what the episode speculate. In some sort of strange resort housing development, a guy and a girl take a little too long to figure out that they're perfect for each other. Basically how the development works is everyone is in a couple at any given time, and all assigned couples have expiration dates. The expiration date arrives, and participants move on to the next couple. Some relationships last for 48 hours, others last for 4 years. As the couple from the beginning of the episode progresses through new matches, which include shredded guys, perfect hourglasses, and so on, yada yada yada, the original couple is unhappy with every single new option, and they figure things out from there. It's a powerful episode with a fairly unpredictable mindfuck at the end, definitely among the few Black Mirror episodes everyone should watch. Season 4, Episode 5, Metalhead, D tier. Sure, post-apocalyptic is a genre, but it's a shitty genre. There's only so much you can do with the premise that the world is ending. Mainstream media needs to give it a rest. There are like 2 good post-apocalyptic things in the world: Last of Us and Horizon Zero Dawn. If you disagree, we can fight about that later. Anyway, a post-apocalyptic story is almost necessarily a bad story. This time around, the world was overrun by quadrupedal Terminators, based off the experiment from Boston Dynamics. Certainly the beasts are believable, but there's not much more to this episode than the usual survival story of doing whatever it takes to get away from these robot dogs, including carving tracking devices out of one's own skin. Also, it's in black and white for some reason, disorienting and also pointless, not peak Black Mirror. Season 4, Episode 6, Black Museum. C tier. This one's okay. Had a bit too many moving parts to maintain my interest. 3 distinct stories, many different characters. From a technical perspective, the episode speculates about the ethics of consciousness. How must all consciousnesses be able to express themselves? What can you upload a consciousness to? Who decides whether their consciousness gets uploaded, etc. That's kinda cool. The overarching justice porn narrative is pretty satisfying, just not among my favorites. Might be a good place to start if you have a modicum of interest in the series. Moving on to Season 5. Episode 1, Striking Vipers. Not crazy about this one. D tier. My dad calls this episode the one with the guys kissing, which is fair. It's pretty silly. To describe the premise is to suggest that the writers came up with the idea near the end of a cocktail party. So basically there's this legally safe Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat knockoff called Striking Vipers. 2 ostensible Gen Xers play it in their 20s, develop a long-term fondness for the series, and come across a VR version as the friends mature into middle age. When they start doing a system link fight, one guy chooses a sexy Chun-Li character, and the other guy chooses a shredded Bruce Lee guy. So they start fighting, and then they get on the ground and make out and have sex. Right, so their immediate concern is with how gay they are, as if any of us can predict what we're attracted to. But are they still gay if one of them is a woman in the context of the game? Is it gay for a man to have sex with a woman? Is it straight for 2 men to have sex as long as they're playing a video game where one of them gets to be a woman? Is that what the world is coming to? To me, an obvious reality that doesn't seem to cross the 2 friends' minds is maybe when the guy chooses the female character, he takes on the physiological needs and desires of a straight woman. Doesn't that make sense? Because when they kiss in real life, that doesn't do it for either of them. Anyway, the solution that the protagonist, the wife, and the friend agree on is a little too good for me to mention here, but not the best episode. It raises questions that, well, are about as interesting as the ones listed above. Season 5, Episode 2, Smithereens. S tier. What a powerful episode. A grieving man gets a job as a ride-sharing driver, but he only takes calls for the local Twitter building. Twitter is called Smithereen because it's a shitty pun, but that's basically what it is. As soon as he has a customer that actually works at the building, the man takes the customer hostage and demands to speak to Billy Bauer, the CEO of the app. The man seems very human, and I think it's because it's not from the hostage's perspective. I feel like most times when there's a hostage situation in a movie or TV show, The episode isn't from the assailant's perspective ever. I think that in and of itself is refreshing. We don't know exactly why this man has taken a Twitter representative hostage, but we can start to get the gears turning. The police track the grieving man to an empty field. The man threatens to kill the customer, who, to the man's dismay, is just an intern. But it is enough leverage, for the record. When this CEO finally gets on the phone, the grieving man reveals the source of his grief. Because the man checked his phone while he was driving, he killed his fiancée in a car accident. And the poignant part? The man doesn't really know what he wants from Billy Bauer, and Billy Bauer doesn't really know what to tell him. Grief is the desire to go back, but how do you go back? How do you find closure and solace? First of all, you don't find solace, but this could happen. It probably has happened to people before. They check their phones, and then their lives are changed forever. Isn't it crazy how that works? Peak Black Mirror. Great episode, doesn't even need to take place in the future. Season 5, Episode 3. The episode that was sort of the last for a while. Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2. B tier. This is the one with Miley Cyrus. Not amazing, but there's a great uplifting ending that would have been a perfect way to end the series. Miley Cyrus, Hannah Montana, you might be thinking, really? Well, she has been acting for a long time, even though she does music more exclusively as an adult. The episode is about two teenage sisters, one of whom loves the sort of in-universe Hannah Montana persona, and the older emo sister really doesn't like Hannah Montana. Their dad is a modest exterminator who constantly comes up with new gadgets for killing varmints. His profession makes him a little too out of touch to observe decorum or care for his daughters. Bit of a dysfunctional modern family to tug at our heartstrings. The bubbly daughter wants a Miley Cyrus Tamagotchi thing for her birthday. Dad gets it for her. Meanwhile, Miley Cyrus's predictably evil manager, who wants her to churn out crappy pop music for Hannah Montana, poisons her into a deep coma. At this point, the Tamagotchi malfunctions and takes on Miley Cyrus's whole personality, complete with profanity and honesty. The Tamagotchi and the girls team up to wake Miley Cyrus and help her escape from her evil manager. Turns out Miley Cyrus's character doesn't want to be a pop star at all and wants to be more like typo negative. So at the end of the story, Miley Cyrus and the emo sister are playing a show as a new band, and the song they're playing is a gritty version of a song from earlier in the episode. Such a cute way to end the series. So season 6 wasn't all bad, but first let's talk about Bandersnatch. Yeah, so Bandersnatch is B tier. B for Bandersnatch? I'm not into story games or choose your own adventure games. I get that there are like 40 hours of content in total in Bandersnatch, but I don't think those 40 hours of content are worth it, do you? The episode about choice, or the lack thereof, isn't that compelling in its own right. I feel like the episode needs the interactive gimmick to earn its tier, and that's not good. I played it a few times, but it's not like it never gets old. It's literally the same story again and again with slight differences. Just not the type of TV special to get excited about. Certainly not any more exciting than a more conventional TV special. Other B-tier episodes better represent the experience of watching Black Mirror, honestly. And finally, Season 6, Episode 1. Joan is awful. B-tier. To be transparent, many think Joan is awful. I thought the premise was a little out there, but ultimately it made me laugh, and that's pretty good. Joan's life is starting to crumble because someone is directly transcribing her life into a Netflix series. Every episode is blackmail, and everyone she knows starts to hate her. The TV show stars Salma Hayek as Joan, and Salma Hayek plays herself in the episode. The writers seem to think this is hilarious. Joan tracks down Salma Hayek, and the two of them try to take down the blackmail engine to save the original Joan, who is neither of them. Michael Cera explains the phenomenon of unlimited Joans, which is really boring and contrived. He goes on for like a minute and a half, until Joan decks him in the mouth out of nowhere. Maybe not peak Black Mirror, but still pretty good. Season 6, Episode 2, 4 more. Loch Henry. B tier. A guy and his girlfriend take a vacation to where the guy grew up. The couple is trying to make a documentary about a local serial killer. With a local friend, they do some research and conduct some interviews. I think there are some interviews. What the young adults don't realize until around the end is that their host, the guy's mom, is in cahoots with the killer from all those years ago. To preserve harmony, the mom comes after the kids, and the guy is the only one who survives the ordeal after they all try to kill each other. He's supposed to suffer as a result of everyone around him dying, but it's more of an afterthought than something comparable to genuine trauma. Seemed to be more about the investigation than the loss. I'm not into true crime to begin with, but at least this episode put a fun twist on true crime that made it feel more accessible to me. Not my favorite, but pretty fun. Season 6, Episode 3, Beyond the Sea. B tier. This is the episode where Aaron Paul and that other guy have a multi-year contract aboard a space station. To deal with loneliness, the two workers have look-alike androids back on Earth. The workers pilot these androids as if the androids are their own bodies, remotely, from the space station. The other guy's house is attacked by religious zealots who, I guess, don't believe in space. Something like that. In true Black Mirror fashion, the zealots destroy the android, and kill the other guy's entire family. Ridiculous. Anyway, to help him deal with the emotional trauma, Aaron Paul allows the other guy to pilot the Aaron Paul android. The other guy goes into Aaron Paul's surrogate body to hang out with Aaron Paul's wife and child. Things get out of hand when the other guy spends a little too much time in the android body and takes a little too much interest in Aaron Paul's wife. This is a long episode with a lot of intermediate juicy drama that certainly kept me on the edge of my seat. I like how the relationship slowly changes between the two men from, oh, the other guy would never use Aaron Paul's android to kill the latter's family, to that possibility becoming something worth worrying about near the end. An exciting drama / almost thriller. We've got a competent Black Mirror episode on our hands, in spite of it being season 6. Okay, so there's something I gotta get off my chest, and that is season 6, episode 4, Maisie Day. This is the episode where a paparazzi tries to get her commission by going after a celebrity who's already struggling with mental health. This celebrity proves very difficult to find until finally the paparazzi gets to a remote, very hard to get into facility, and boom, the celebrity is a werewolf. F tier. I don't think we need to discuss this episode any further. And last, and maybe least, season 6, episode 5, Demon 79. C tier. Right now, I'm sitting in front of 15 pages of notes, and I'm about to talk about an episode I don't like very much. It is barely entertaining enough to be Black Mirror, but C tier allows it to make the cut. In this episode, an Indian retail worker experiences racism. Unrelated, she also summons a demon who tells her that she needs to kill 3 people to prevent the end of the world in the coming days. Naturally, she's torn up about this. I think the episode is supposed to be funny because the demon, who takes the physical form of 70s pop star Boney M, makes many attempts to put her at ease in spite of the grim circumstances. Watching her clumsily carry out the task of killing random people and tearing herself up about it the way anyone else would is almost as funny as it is depressing. Not a great episode. Good enough. That's all I have for you today. Check out Tier Maker since it's advertising itself here anyway. If you're not willing to see what all the fuss is about, that's okay. Many don't. Still, I recommend all S tier and A tier episodes if you have a Netflix account. Thanks so much for watching, and who knows, maybe there'll be more television suggestions in this channel's future.